Baseball talk, guys, here on A2D Radio. Happy Monday. We have the Wild Thing, Mitch Williams, Tom Arnone for Here's the Thing. And I get to hop on and hang out with these guys and learn something about baseball. So like, subscribe, follow A2D Radio, and let's roll the video.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Embarrassed! He's flying!
Welcome in. It's almost time.
What's going on, fam? Hope you guys are having a great start to your week. And again, I am Chrome. Happy to be co-hosting with Tom Arnone and Mitch Williams here. We're going to be talking Philadelphia Phillies coming off of a home stand here. Is it a missed opportunity, or did they do about what we thought? We're going to talk to these guys. We're going to learn a little bit more about the game of baseball as we do every week with them. But first, let's pay a couple bills. Phillies Sports Trips. It's your 5-for-5 sports travel company with premium travel, tailgating experiences for passionate Philadelphia fans. They got a lot of Eagles trips out there right now. If you're looking to hit the road and follow the birds, the season's getting ready to kick off. Go to phillysportstrips.com. Hollis Thomas and friends, Philly alumni, are all going to be a part of this, so make sure you guys check them out, phillysportstrips.com. Guys, looking forward to this week.
Hello.
I'm happy to be on with you guys. This is a rarity. We get all three of us here, but we're going to do our opening topic of conversation here, guys. Let's talk about Taijuan Walker, who is one of the top pitchers in the National League. What a signing he's been. Is he a legit Cy Young candidate this year? Who agrees? Who disagrees? Mitch, let's start with you, brother.
No, he's not, or he shouldn't be. He should get a big pat on the back for what he's done for the Phillies because he's done a real good job. He's done what they signed him to do. But you look at his numbers, they don't scream Cy Young. Yes, he's won 13 games, but when you go inside the numbers, he's got an ERA over 4. I'm sorry, that just doesn't stand up to Cy Young kind of credentials.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Mitch. I mean, that's where I expected him to go. That's why I was smiling. Because, you know, he's had a really good year. And when you sign a guy to be your potential 4th starter, maybe maxes out as your 3. That's what you brought him in to be, right? And he's been way more than that. He's actually probably been more year 2, right, where you take Noel out of the mix, okay? So he's been tremendous. And with that being said, when I think Cy Young, I think dominance, right? I don't think just really good year or better year than expected. I think flat out dominance on the mound. And I think MVP, I think it is the same thing. So when I look at him, it doesn't pop out at me. Dominance doesn't pop out, right? I still think if you went into the playoffs, he's your 3rd starter or maybe your 2nd. He's in that conversation, but he would have to have the type of year where you're talking about him above Zach Wheeler. And Zach Wheeler hasn't had a great year, but my point is that you're talking about him at the level of that. And that's not where we're at with Walker. We're at a level of he's been really good.
Yeah, that's what he's been. He's been solid, and that's all they can ask for.
And I think to both of your points, too, when you do break down the actual statistical numbers, right, he's been very, very good. He's played above, I think, the contract they gave him at this point so far and what the expectation is. But to what you guys were talking about, where you expect dominance day in and day out, every 5th day when they hit the mound, I think what he's done, and it's a credit to him, is he's more so – listen, he's had his struggles at points, but he's been able to pitch out of jams when he's gotten into them. And I think that's more of the credit of he's doing what it takes to win, not necessarily dominating games when he's pitching.
Well, and you look at this stuff right now. They just said that Thompson's going to take him out of the rotation and give him an extra week or whatever, and just to miss a start for load management. And that's what it looked like to me. Like we talked about last week, Chrome, the dead arm. That's exactly what he looks like he's going through because his split isn't biting. It got hit out of the park the other day, once or twice, I'm not sure, but it's hanging. And that's just a sign of lack of arm speed. And that's what dead arm is.
Yeah, and the other thing is he's had 10 quality starts, right? So when you're talking Cy Young, you can just go off of that. You know, he's won games. They've hit for him, obviously. And the biggest thing he's done is he's kept his team in games. He's kept what's supposed to be and has turned out to grow into a lethal lineup, he's kept that lineup in baseball games. And that's what you're looking for from year 3 or 4, right? And anything more is a plus, but that's what he's done, right? So he hasn't been like a guy who's going 8 every day. He probably leads the team in pitches, is my guess. I don't have that number in front of me, but my guess is he's probably thrown the most pitches out of the entire group. And that's where maybe some of the tiredness comes from. But you know what bothers me about all this is, hey, Rob, if you want to manage arms, what I would like you to do is manage arms in April and May, when we all know it's just get through. When it's all get through. You had a lot of guys come off the longest they've ever pitched in their careers. And we can say whatever, and we can say this, that, and the third. But at the end of the day, that's the facts. Noah's never pitched that long into a season. Wheeler's never pitched that long in a season. He was wearing down in September last year. So why not manage that better than when you're in I won't say a pennant race, but you're in a playoff race to get in, and now you're forced to manage arms, right? When you could have load managed, which I hate, but you could have load managed in April and May when you weren't playing good enough anyway. So that's the time to do it.
It's like we talked about last week. A dead arm, the only way through a dead arm is to throw through it. You cannot just shut yourself down. If you shut yourself down, that means the dead arm is going to last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month. If you go out, long toss, throw the baseball hard every day and correctly, you get through those dead arm stages. I know, because we only had 5 relievers in the bullpen. I wanted to pitch every day. Now, the way they're managing everyone's load management numbers, I don't understand it. I don't know how you get tired in a bullpen with 9 guys in it. That's almost impossible.
Well, let me ask you then, Mitch. When, we talked about this last week as well. When you talked about pitching through it, I know we're going to touch base on this shortly with the picking up of Michael Lorenzen. Obviously, big arm pickup there. They have the depth right now to start maybe giving guys a miss here and there. But do you get concerned that maybe in this particular case with Taijuan Walker, that maybe this is not the guy that we should be sitting down and skipping the start with right now?
No, I'm all for him giving him a rest.
Okay.
Because he's been good all year. He hasn't been great. Cy Young Award type stuff is great. Taijuan is a guy that's going to get you through hopefully 6 innings more times than he's not. He's not a guy when you look out there, you go as a teammate, okay, it's win day. Well, back when Roger Clemens was pitching, when he took them out against you, you knew you weren't winning. It was that simple. He ain't a Roger Clemens type. He's a guy that keeps them in ball games and lets that offense work. And that's what happened with Ranger yesterday. Ranger did a great job of keeping him in that game. He could have let that game blow wide open, but he didn't. He kept it close, gave the offense a chance, and the offense didn't produce.
Yeah, you can look at like everybody's body is different, right?
Yep.
So, for what works for most players might not work for all players, right? So it's not a one thing fits all. When you talk about like shutting a guy down for a minute, right, or skipping his start, right? Is he able to keep going? Some guys show that that's no big deal. Zach Wheeler showed that last year, right? He had to get some time down. He had to just freshen his body up, get his arm a little fresher, whatever the case may be. But then he came out throwing bullets again. So it worked for him, right? Where we talk about maybe a guy like Noah. I don't know how that works for Noah. Right, Noel could sit down for a week or skip a start, but nothing changes. Right, it's not air quote a dead arm. So everybody's different. If you learn, and if you know, and if you're a great manager, and this is what separates good managers from great managers at the big league level, because personalities is what separates you. How are you able to work with all the different personalities? But not only that, how are you able to manage what's best for each player? Because it's not a one size fits all. And the great ones are able to do it. And I'm not saying Rob isn't. We don't know, right?
Rob has to get to know every one of his players. That's all managing at the big league level is. Everybody on that field knows how to manage strategically a baseball game. My kid could do it. What a manager does is manage those personalities in that clubhouse. And how do I keep all these guys happy? And that's where the juggling comes in. You got some guys you can yell at and they'll get pissed off and play harder. Some guys you yell at and they curl up like a potato bug and just say, okay, I suck. He's telling me I suck. Someone told me I suck. Did everything I could do to prove him wrong. But you can't treat everyone the way you would treat me, the way you treat Tom or Chrome. They all have a personality that That's what you're managing, is their personality.
So in terms of Walker this season, let me ask you guys, is he the MVP of the pitching staff?
Oh,
And I am including bullpen in this.
well, if that was the case, then I'd go with Kimbrel because
me
he's
too.
been pretty reliable on the back end. He just hadn't got a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, it does seem
Because
that
they either
way.
win big or they lose. So it's hard on a closer.
I'm around Mitch. Yeah, I would say if it's everybody, it's Kimbrel.
Taking Kimbrel out though, or say taking the bullpen out, he's got to be the top starter this season, right?
No, I mean I would still probably give it the Wheels.
Yeah,
I don't love doing that because he hasn't had a great year. But you're talking about different than a 3.74 on run average and a guy who's got an over a 4, and he's pitched 6 more innings than him. Right? He's just going off of the numbers. I mean, Wheeler struck out 155. Walker struck out 106. Wheeler's walked 25 batters. Walker's walked 55. Wheeler's given up 127 hits. And Walker's given up 113. So, I mean, in reality, no, Wheeler's been our best starter. It just hasn't been up to his level.
And Taijuan Walker isn't facing everyone else's 1 or 2. And
that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
I'll go back to what I was told when I first got brought to the big leagues. A hitter don't hit how you feel. He hits what he sees. And you've seen Wheeler do it. He'd go out there without his 97, 98, only be throwing 93, 94, but he knows how to pitch. And that's the difference. Hitters don't hit how you feel. They hit what they see. So if you continue to make pitches, I don't care what the velocity is on them. If you're mechanically sound and you just don't have great arm speed right now, it shouldn't affect the way you make pitches.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that like analogy there. I've never heard that one before.
That's an old Tom Houseism.
Oh, nice.
Tom told me that when I was 17 years old, and it's always stuck with me.
So they hit how they feel.
A pitcher or a hitter does not hit how the pitcher feels. He hits what he sees from the pitcher. So you're making pitches at 93, 94, and you're staying on the edges and out of the middle of the plate. It doesn't matter. It simply does not matter. How did Jamie Moyer pitch for 117 years?
Yeah, it's true.
Because he knew how to pitch. It's called controlling the opponent's bat speed. That's all a pitcher's trying to do is control the bat speed.
No, it's definitely true. And when you look at a lot of pitchers over time who I think kind of flamed out, I think Verlander went through a few years like that, and he could still throw pretty hard, but he's not what he used to be. And he had a few, about a year and a half, 2 years where it was a bumpy ride for him until he learned to use movement. Yeah.
Well, when he was in Detroit, they had me do a breakdown on him when I was at MLB Network. And Justin has always been a guy that threw into a stiff front leg. You have to throw into a stiff front leg to generate velocity. Well, his front leg was breaking down, and he was peeling off to the side before he let go of the baseball. So I did the breakdown on him. I swear to you, his next start, they showed Jim Leland out there watching him play catch in the outfield, and that's all he was doing, was throwing into that stiff front leg. And it was fixed. His curveball was back. His fastball was back. It's simply a matter of mechanics, no matter how you look at it.
I almost want to save that for a Catch with Mitch one day. The question I was going to ask right after Jimmy Leland. Just one of my all-time favorites.
Loved it,
Jimmy. So yeah, I'll save some questions for Jimmy down the road. But one of my favorites. Never coached here in Philly, but just one of my favorites, right, Chrome?
No, he was just one of those guys, a baseball guy. He'd stand in the dugout with his cigarette cupped in his hand so the cameras couldn't pick it up. That was Jimmy.
It's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
now Twitter would take your world down.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
My favorite Leland clip is when he just undresses Bonds in spring training. Well, when Bonds was like a rookie, I think he was a rookie at the time. And he came in there thinking he was going to tell everybody how things were done, and Leland stomped that out in a hurry.
Yeah. I love Jimmy Leland. And I grew up watching him as an opposing manager with the Pirates, and then obviously the 06 World Series as well, because I thought the job he did with Detroit was amazing. And it was exactly what that organization needed at that time. And I wish we had more guys that were like him still around in the game, honestly.
Trust me, there's a lot of players that wish guys like Jim Leyland were still in the game.
Oh, I believe it. Let's take a quick second here. Let's show some love to some of our sponsors here, paying some of our bills.
Hey Birds fans, the NFL schedule has arrived and Philly Sports Trips has all the details now. Visit the site phillysportstrips.com. This is sure to be an epic season. Be sure to go there now to make sure that you don't get shut out. Join us in Tampa, LA, Seattle, or when we get revenge in Kansas City. Don't want to fly? No problem. Gather up your crew and hop aboard one of our signature boisterous bus trips to DC or New York. Sign up now and make sure to mention A2D. Don't miss out on the best Philly fan experience anywhere. Philly Sports Trip customers always stay at the best hotels and meet NFL legends. Book today.
Mitch Williams here. If
All right, make sure you guys check them out.
Join my winning team at Raymond
phillysportstrips.com.
Transportation Corporation. Let us become part of your team. RTC has been serving shippers nationwide for 26 years. With 10 terminals located throughout the U.S., volume LTL, small LTL, truckload, and rail. You can count on RTC to be the closer you need. I know firsthand that the Delaware Valley demands accountability. Call me at 800-206-3983 to schedule a meeting. Give me one shipment, and we will earn the rest. Mitch Williams here. If your company ships freight, join my winning team at Raymond Transportation Corporation. Let us become part of your team.
I guess it's a loop.
Has been...
This is what happens when I use a different computer that just wants to run on like slow motion. So apologize about that, but we got it in. We got in what we missed at the beginning, Crump. So we're good.
There we go. All right.
Itself in.
Absolutely. But yeah, RTC, make sure you guys contact them for any of your crate needs, all that. Mitch down here, and as well as Philly Sports Trips, guys, the Philly 5 for 5. Oh man, no love for me? What the hell is that?
Yeah, nothing.
Morning,
That's
Tom
all right.
and Mitch. Morning, guys.
But listen, let's move on now, guys. We talked about Taijuan Walker. Guys, continue to drop your comments, like, subscribe, follow on all of our platforms right now. If you're watching live, please share the video out. But that being said, let's jump back. Let's recap the week. Obviously, the biggest moment of the week is Michael Lorenzen makes his home debut for the Philadelphia Phillies, second start, and he throws a no-hitter. We'll touch on that.
Pitch.
I'll tell you what. I mean, through those first two starts, 17 innings, and one of those things that we kind of talk about, Mitch, right? I think we've talked pitch counts when I've been on here with you before. I know you and Tom have as well, right?
Yeah.
He came out in that start, and those first couple innings, that pitch count was up. He was scuffling to get through. But once he found, after like the second, third inning, he found his group. He was extremely efficient the rest of the game. And I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on what you saw from him in those first two starts, and particularly what was really working for him in that no-hitter.
Well, the thing that's most impressed me about this kid is his ability to control the speed of the game. I mean, you only got 20 seconds to get rid of that ball, and he's in control of the speed of the game the entire time he's on that mound. That's what I love about him. He's out there. He makes pitches when he has to. He's not going to blow you away. He's a guy that has to pitch. And anytime you think of Wheeler, when he doesn't have his fastball, it's 93, 94. Well, Lorenzen's going out there and pitching with 91, 92 and shutting teams down. It shows you that if you make pitches, you get outs. It's that simple. And this guy, what I love about the move that Dombrowski made is it gives Rob Thomson the flexibility to do exactly what he's doing right now and give us each starter a chance to miss a start going into September. And then hopefully the entire starting staff will be strong through September.
Yeah, I think he was. I mean, obviously he was great. I think it was a really good acquisition. I don't want to overhype it, but I think I don't want to let the no-hitter overhype it on what it is. He's had a really good year on the mound in Detroit. I think he's getting better as a guy who was a two-way guy originally. He was the knockoff brand of Shohei Ohtani per se when he first came up to the bigs, and I think he's finding his home on the mound, and he's getting better on the mound. Seems like yearly he's getting better. I think it was another, like, those types of moves are what win you playoff series, right? It's the move that it doesn't have all the glitz and the glamour to it. It's not, you didn't bring in Juan Soto, right? But those little moves that, like, on the surface aren't huge, but are just really good and solidify your staff in ways and your entire pitching rotation, everything. They're the moves that win at the end of the
day. Would Juan Soto have 17 innings pitched in 2 starts? No, he wouldn't. This guy is exactly what this team needed. It makes them deeper. And the other thing it does, as far as depth goes, now you got him, who's a former two-way player, sitting on the bench on the days he's not starting. That gives Rob Thomson an extra bat on that bench. So it's not a small thing. You're not talking about sending a pitcher out there to run or, okay, I'm stuck, I don't have a move. And that's going to happen where he's stuck and doesn't have a move, and you're going to see Lorenzen getting it bat.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of those moves, not to overstate it, Tom, but when you look back at a Joe Blanton, when the Phillies made a move like that, Cardinals went and got Jeff Weaver that one year when they won in 06. Some guys, you just make certain acquisitions to solidify your pitching staff. And if those guys can go in and give you those quality innings, and I think the one thing about Michael Lorenzen that we saw was he was hitting his spots. And it's what you guys have talked about, 20 times on this show. It's movement, not velocity. And I think that he's kind of showing that there, if he's going to hit his spot where JT's setting up for him, he's going to have a lot more success than not.
Absolutely. You can make a good pitch, and a guy can still hit a duck fart down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But all you can do as a pitcher is look back. Well, I made the pitch I wanted to make. It's the mistakes, the ones that eat at you. And this guy that hasn't made many mistakes. If I was Aaron Nola, I mean, you give up 20 plus home runs, that has you scratching your head. Because if he doesn't go back and look at why he's getting taken out of the ballpark so often, then there's a problem there.
Yeah, he's a guy who cost himself, $50 million already. So, he can change it by a great postseason or a great, a great run down the stretch here. But he's cost himself a lot of money. Hasn't been good enough. Guy who's defended Aaron Nola for a long time. Unacceptable. Not good enough.
Right now, he's our 5th starter. If I'm looking at it objectively.
Because I would question if he makes a playoff rotation at this point.
Everybody else in that rotation is throwing the ball better than Aaron Nola right now. And I'm talking down to Sanchez. Sanchez has pitched well for this team. So Rob Thomson has flexibility going into September, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think,
okay,
Tom.
No, that's it. I was saying, like, he does. He has tons of flexibility, right?
Yeah,
Great competition.
Yeah, I mean, and you hate to say that about Aaron Nola, who's been, kind of a cornerstone of this version of the Phillies in the organization, and especially this close to the end of a contract. But at the end of the day,
you can't change the eye test.
You can't. You knocked on the door last year, and you saw what you got last year, and you expected for a guy who is looked at as a cornerstone like Cole Hamels was in 2008, like Curt Schilling was back in 2000 or in 1993, when you guys had certain guys there that were expected to be the top of the rotation guy. He's not answering the call this year, and that's concerning. And you hate to do that, but at the end of the day, when the playoffs roll around, you have to make the best decision that's going to put the team in the best position to succeed.
That's exactly right. And at this moment, he would not be starting in that wild card playoff series for me.
I don't even think he's in the conversation at this moment, unless he has a phenomenal September.
It'll be Wheeler, Lorenzen, and Ranger or Taijuan. That's who it's going to come down to. Because for me, if I'm doing what's best for this team, I'm putting a starting pitcher on the field that gives this team the best chance to win that day. And right now, Aaron's just not that guy.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard.
It's hard for Rob Thomson right now. I know that, because as good a guy as Aaron Nola is, he obviously puts in work. I just question what he's working on. That's going to be my question the rest of the year, and if he stays here next year.
And I think
what
that
are you
kind of
working on?
I think that kind of piggybacks off of then, is it him or is it the coaching staff, to where is he not listening to, direction that they're taking when they're studying film?
Well,
Or are
this
they
is the thing.
looking at the wrong
I don't
things?
know what Caleb, the pitching coach, is telling them. And Tom and I talked about this. How much of it are they actually listening to when he does say something? Because, like I said, credibility is a huge thing in the game of baseball. And if you got some guy as your pitching coach who threw, I think it was 14 innings in the big leagues over 2 years, and he had a 7.1 ERA. No, he threw 34 innings, excuse me. So it's hard for me as a pitcher. So that's the first thing everybody does, is read their bubblegum card, the back of the bubblegum card. Does he have any credibility? Well, when you look at those numbers, why would I listen to a guy trying to teach me how to succeed at a level that he never could succeed at? There is no credibility there. So I don't know what he's telling them. If he's telling Aaron, you got to get on top of the baseball and throw it downhill, because I haven't seen it. When he throws well, he's up here with his fingers. He gets the down and the run to it. When he doesn't, it's just flat, and he can't get the ball off the barrel. And it's not hard to see if you know what you're doing. And I'm sorry, I question what he's being taught.
Yeah, I question a lot of it. I question, is he just, is it the mental of not getting the contract? Is it trying to do too much? Is it trying to be too perfect? I feel like sometimes he's trying to be too perfect at times on the mound. At the beginning, I knew that the clock was bothering him a little bit with runners on. That was an adjustment for him. And I think he got through that for the most part, where he doesn't feel as rushed anymore. But listen, he's getting paid to be a number 2, maybe even a number 1. He has the capabilities of doing it. I don't know right now if I take him out of one of my top 3 in the postseason yet. I got a little bit more time to go on that. I don't want to make that call yet. I think if you put a hypothetical gun to my head, which you should never put a hypothetical gun to your therapist's head, great quote from a great movie, is that I probably would. I probably would give him the ball as my 3rd guy or 2nd guy, because he threw well last year, right? He threw well last year. He's been in it, right? And Lorenzen, no disrespect, he hasn't been in it. He hasn't pitched in the postseason. That's not saying that he can't, right? I'm not going to say he can't. He just hasn't. It's a different animal.
Let's put it this way, Tom. He came into Philadelphia for his first start in a Phillies uniform in front of this fan base and went out and pitched a no-hitter. I ain't really worried about his mental makeup when it comes to taking him out in the postseason. And I am very worried about Nola's mental makeup. That's the bigger issue.
The only argument I'll have about that start, not the no-hitter, because that's, you get a no-hitter against anybody. That's huge. Is not the 27 Yankees either.
No. But both of his starts, he has been unbelievable at controlling the opposition's bat speed.
No, it's hard not to, for sure. It's hard not to be like, I'm not going to give this guy the ball.
He's not pitching for me. I'm putting him on the mound. If I wouldn't hesitate to start him in game 1.
Yeah,
we got him. He's been our best pitcher.
Yeah, he's been better than Ranger too.
Yeah.
So it's not like, and you don't want to take Ranger out, because Ranger had a good postseason. So listen, it's a good problem to have, per se.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have, and I'm glad I'm not. Well, one, I wish I was making the money to make the decision, but I'm glad I'm not the one making that decision now.
Oh, that's the difference between me and you, buddy. I would relish the chance to make that decision, because I'm not making that decision based on anything personal.
Yeah.
It would be simply what is going to give our team the best chance to win. It's that simple. And right now, as it stands, he's the 6th best pitcher in a 6-man rotation.
Yeah, I think right now, if it was me in a short series, I'd probably run out, Wheeler, Lorenzen, Walker, and then if you hit that seven,
I would go Wheeler, Lorenzen, Ranger, depending on the team we're facing.
That's
if the
true.
team we're facing in the postseason is loaded with left-handed bats, you have to start Ranger in one of those games.
That's fair.
But if their lineup is right-handed heavy, then you do exactly what you just said. Start Walker in the 3-hole.
And I think regardless of that, then if we're going to a 4-man rotation in a 7-game series, that's the 4 right there. To me, it's already locked in unless Nola has an unbelievable September.
Which, over the course of his career, has been the worst month for him.
Well,
so this is where Rob's going to have to make – he's going to have to make hard decisions, but he's got to do it in the right way. If he's not going to use Aaron in the postseason like that, he's got to pull him in and explain why. It's based simply on who is throwing the baseball better at this point in time, and make sure you get that across to him. Because Aaron's another big guy in that clubhouse. You don't want him pissed off, but he also has to look at the facts that are in front of him. He has not pitched as well as everybody else.
It's true. It's true. Tom, you want to drop anything in before we pay some bills?
Listen, it's a guy that I really like as a human, right? I mean, take the baseball out of it. I really like as a human, and like Mitch said, it's not personal, right? No. But it's the facts, you know. And I tried to play devil's advocate there. You know, I tried to try to make a case for him to be in your top 3, but it's a hard sell, man. And if I'm having trouble selling that, which is easy, is just talking sports and playing the other side, and I can't sell that. I think that's all we need to know about it, right? And I think that answers the question for me when I was trying to sell it.
And you have to think about the other 24 players on that roster that are active. If they look at what Rob Thomson's decision is, and he decides to start Nola, that could bring up all kinds of questions flying around that clubhouse. Why? Everybody else has pitched better, and that's all the postseason's about. You ride the hot hand. And right now, Aaron's hand is not hot. He's given up way too many long balls. He can't keep the ball in the ballpark. And the thing that really worries me, he can't – anytime there's a mistake made, an error, whatever, you can count on that run scoring.
Yeah.
Aaron has got to get a whole lot more mentally tough. The one stat on a pitcher stat line that told me all I needed to know about a pitcher and his character was unearned runs. If you got 30 unearned runs over the course of a season, all that tells me is you got no heart. You were brought in a situation you couldn't pitch your way out of. And a guy makes an error behind you, you look at him and say, I got that. I'll make sure that run doesn't score. And Aaron, I think, goes the other way. When an error happens behind him, you can count on 1 or 2 runs scoring. That's how I've always judged what a pitcher is. That column will tell you exactly about his character and his heart.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. And again, you know, as much as you want to have a loyalty to him, he's got to the work's got to be there, and the results have to be there. And when you have 24 other guys who have put the work in all year, who deserve the same kind of a courtesy, and some of them have been in the organization as long as he has, you know, you can't just discard those because, you know, you want to have a loyalty or not rock the boat with one of your young potential free agent studs. You know what I mean? It is what it is. He's not pitching simple. Well. You have to accommodate everybody else.
Yeah, for sure, I mean, it's simple. I'll leave with this and we'll go to break, but it's simple. When you can't pitch out of the stretch and you can only pitch out of the windup, and that hasn't been corrected, that's a big, the words right out of my mouth. That's a big time problem, issue, however we want to look at it. No bueno. Bueno.
I've never understood the windup anyway. All it is adding motion that you have to try and repeat. Everyone should throw out of the stretch because you don't throw harder out of the windup. That's just a fallacy. People want to say that, but they're wrong. If you're mechanically sound out of your set position, your velocity is going to be exactly what it is out of the windup if you're mechanically sound. So Aaron should start the game in the stretch and just get used to that repetition over and over again. Pick it up, fall. And he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, still got time to figure it out, so hopefully he does.
Yep. on the other side, we'll continue this conversation. We'll recap this home stretch. Overall, we'll also preview the upcoming week of games. But first, let's show a little love over here to our bill payers, our sponsors.
Hey, Birds fans, the NFL schedule has arrived and Philly Sports Trips has all the details now. Visit the site phillysportstrips.com. This is sure to be an epic season. Be sure to go there now to make sure that you don't get shut out. Join us in Tampa, LA, Seattle, or when we get revenge in Kansas City. Don't want to fly? No problem. Gather up your crew and hop aboard one of our signature boisterous bus trips to DC or New York. Sign up now and make sure to mention A2D. Don't miss out on the best Philly fan experience anywhere. Philly Sports Trip customers always stay at the best hotels and meet NFL legends. Book today.
I'll play the Raymond Transportation. Give me 1 second.
Serving shippers nationwide for 26 years. With 10 terminals located throughout the U.S., volume LTL, small LTL, truckload, and rail. You can count on RTC to be the closer you need. I know firsthand that the Delaware Valley demands accountability. Call me at 800-206-3983 to schedule a meeting. Give me one shipment, and we will earn the rest. Mitch Williams here. If your company ships freight, join my winning team at Raymond Transportation Corporation.
We weren't. I just hit the button by accident because I'm just a mess, right? It's like first time, long time. But we're here. Go ahead, Chrome.
All right, guys. We're going to continue our conversation. So, guys, we talked about Michael Lorenzen's no-hitter. We broke down Aaron Nola, and we already jumped ahead to possible playoff rotations. But let's pull it back in here. This homestand, 6-4, guys, is this a missed opportunity? Because I know, Mitch, we talked about last week. We felt like this week they really could have made up a lot of ground. I could have seen them going 8-2 in this homestand, honestly. And I know, I heard I didn't watch yesterday's game, but I've heard, maybe there were some issues with the home plate umpire. That's neither here nor there.
Alec Boehm got just absolutely hosed and then got thrown out of the game.
Right.
Got called out on a fastball in that wasn't a strike.
Yeah, I've heard a lot, and it's one thing, we say this all the time, Mitch. If you're going to call it the whole game, that's one thing. We know where the strike zone is established. That's fine. But from what I was told, it was all over the place. But you guys tell me, missed opportunity to not maybe come away with 7 or 8 wins out of this, or
I think they should have had
still a success.
7 at the minimum. They were set up to really gain some ground. I don't know that they can ever catch the Braves.
No.
But they're going to have to put some and they did a good job after Miami. They put Miami 1 game back of them, and then they put them 3 more games behind them. Last time I saw, they were 4 games back in the wild card. So they took care of business there. And that's all they have to do. They have to manage the rest of the season, beat the teams you should beat, and win series. The loss of the series to Minnesota, that's got to hurt them. They should have won that series. There's no question about that. But going forward, that's all they have to do. Keep the teams that are behind you. Pretty simple equation.
Yeah. I thought the week was what it was, right? Last week, it's not like we talked about last night. It wasn't disappointing. Wasn't where you would want it to be. That 7-3 type area, right? But 6-4. All right, you played winning baseball. You still kept that lead ahead of everybody beneath you, right? And if they play 500, I got a little internal issue with that because you want to be going 6-4, 7-3 in your 10-game spans. You want to keep playing your best baseball leading into September and in October, hence like they did last year. And they're doing that, right? Since June 1st, they're the second best team in all baseball behind the Atlanta Braves, who are absurdly good. I mean, it's ridiculous how good Atlanta is. But, that being said, the Phillies are right there in that conversation. And they've rebounded from a terrible start. And now they got another stretch. I don't want to call it anything easy in the big leagues, but Toronto's not going to be easy, but that's a 2-game series. So go there, split it. We're Gucci here, okay? Then you're going to Washington, all right? Now, the doubleheader, I'll give you the split in the doubleheader because it's always tough to win and, sweep a doubleheader. But going there, 3 games in Washington, they're downright dog shit. So please go sweep that one. Like, I'm always good with 2 or 3, but that's a sweep. Go back, night-night, because that's what great teams do. And that's all I want to see from them down the stretch is, hey, compete versus the teams that are as good as you or better than you, right? But I want you to wipe the floor with people that are beneath you. Wipe the floor, because that's what the special teams do. They wipe the floor with everybody that's not even close to being at their level. But Philly's been great. They've been listen, let's be fair. They've been great since June 1st. Great.
Yep.
And we just talked like it was a funeral 5 minutes ago before the break, by the way. I felt like I was at a funeral for Nola, right? I mean, we talked about our number 2. We just had a funeral for him, and that's how good the Phillies have been since June 1st.
Yeah. They've played good baseball, and if they can continue to do this throughout the remainder of the season, we're going to see them in October again playing baseball. But like I said, that's when the decisions have to be made with the starting staff. And one thing I want to touch on before we get to the end of the show, since we've done nothing but rip him the whole time he's been here, Trea Turner, it's unbelievable, Tommy. Have you noticed where his barrel's been? It's unbelievable. Got rid of that, kept it up here, and now he's whacking the ball all over the ballpark.
His bat speed's a hell of a lot faster.
Yeah, Mitch has been the biggest advocate from it since we started doing the show, right? So, I mean, nobody's been louder about it and been spot on about it than Mitch. Like, I watch post-game shows. I watch, MLB Network. I watch all those things, right? Because I love baseball. I haven't heard that much, if at all. I haven't heard that much from right down there. So, credit to that great find, Mitch. And I'm sure it was something that Kevin saw. I'm sure it was something that I would hope Kevin Long saw. You would hope.
It's impossible to not see. And then you look at JT. What have we said about JT all year? When he starts driving the ball to right center, that means he's getting closed with his lower half, which means he's closing with his upper half. Completely different hitter when that front foot lands square. It's when it lands open, he's an out. So both of those guys, if they're getting it figured out now, that lineup is going to be extremely deep heading into September.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing it. We saw glimpses of it this past week, right? I think that's the biggest thing to take out of it, right? And listen, I know I am going to be fair about this, right? Because people want to poo-poo this, and I'm not okay with poo-pooing stuff because this fan base in this city get a bad enough rap, and I'll continue to say there's 25% that are morons. All right, there's 25%. Maybe in New York there's 20, and we're 5% higher. But 75% of this fan base knows baseball and knows what they're talking about. And let's not think for a second, because more and more as time's going on, and now we're in 2023, right? We see it more and more. The mental side of baseball is more important than it's ever been given credit for. It's more important. I mean, and we watched it. Like, let's not poo-poo that standing ovation. Let's not act like that doesn't help a guy. Let's please not act like, we don't need to go around crowning ourselves. It doesn't need to be, we don't need to have a parade down Broad Street because we gave a standing O. But guess what? We rallied around the guy that's going to be here for a long time and has played the worst baseball of his career. You think he didn't need that? You think he didn't need that? Come on, I know he's getting paid millions of dollars. I know all the glitz and glamour that comes with it. I get it. But at the end of the day, it's still a sport you played as a kid. And everybody at times needs a little bit of a rally behind them. They need a rallying call behind it, a pick-me-up. And it's all it was. And guess what? I'm not saying it's the end-all be-all why it worked. I get they played bad teams. But he didn't hit versus bad teams early on in the year either.
Nope.
So you got to hit against who you're playing against, right? And there's still major league arms. And he did it. And listen, I'm proud of this fan base because they get a lot of bad rap too much.
Let me ask you something, Tommy. Where would Alec Boehm's career be right now if the fan base, after he came out last year and apologized for what he said, what if the fan base had stood up and booed him that next night? He wouldn't be in Philly anymore. It would have shut
284.
No, it would have shut him down.
He might not have even been in the major leagues. That's the type of stuff that regresses a guy back to AAA and AA, trying to find themselves.
It's like they say baseball's a game of inches. It ain't the 2 inches the ball's fair, the 2 inches the ball's foul. It's the 6 inches between your ears. That's it. And had the Philly fan base stood up and booed Boehm last year, he'd have been done. It would have been too much for him. He knew he screwed up, went out on a limb and apologized, owned up to what he did and what he said, didn't hide from it. That's what Philly fans want. They want guys, no matter what you do, you're accountable for it. And if you are, you can play in Philadelphia.
I love
we
it. I
asked
mean,
for.
I love it. And I'm glad that we've grown to be able to do those types of things and rally around guys that we know are really good baseball players, right? And we could have done a lot more of that in the past too, but at least we're doing it now, right? It's never too late to change your stripes and understand the game. And
Yep.
So good for the people down at the park for both times, right? And Alex, like one of the most beloved Phillies now, period. I mean, he's been my guy forever.
Look at what he's done for his career. At third base, at first base, this guy has been everything to this team this year. He and Stott both. The two young guys have been the most consistent guys, along with Castellanos. Nick has been extremely consistent all year long, but the two young guys, Stott and Bohm, hands down the most consistent on both sides of the baseball. And that's all you can ask for.
Bryson Stott's a superstar in the making.
Yep.
He just is, and Alec Boehm's right behind him. There was bold predictions before the season, right, Chrome? When we were down in Clearwater, and we were doing our bold predictions for the upcoming season, and there was guys that were Derek calling me and other things. But my bold one was, which it's not going to happen, but my bold one was Alec Boehm will be in the MVP conversation, right? And listen, he got hurt, so he missed. He probably missed a good 70 ABs, which doesn't help the process. But in terms of the seasons he's arguably having the best season of the entire lineup outside of Stott. You can argue one way or the other for both, right? But those two are having the best statistical seasons of this entire lineup. So something to be said about how good Alec Boehm is and, how much better he's got and Stott, because this is what you need. You can't just sign, or the Mets are in trouble, right? It can't just be I go run out and sign everybody. The Yankees,
You have to develop guys.
I got some in-house talent. I can't. I love spending money, right? I was the biggest advocate for a decade of hello, we're a top 5 market. Are we going to act like it, right? But at the end of the day, we acted like it, but we hit. And credit to the organization. Credit to the organization and Andy McPhail, who I despise Andy McPhail, and who was the other dry jock?
Clinton.
Matt Clinton, a total dryer, okay? But at the end of the day, they're his picks. So I'll give credit where credit's due. Alec Boehm and Bryce Stott are your picks.
I want to say this, Tom, in terms of that bold prediction, right? What doesn't make it egregious even to this point is, and me and Mitch talked about this a lot, I think actually last week, Mitch, when you look at the most, Castellanos is a whole different conversation. I think he's been phenomenal this year overall. When you look at the most professional hitters in the lineup, it's been the two young guys who have looked like the most veteran presences in the lineup from start to this point, which is Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm. So, all right, maybe he's not the MVP candidate, but is he one of the best players, hands down most consistent players on this team from the start of the season to now? And one of those guys you look at day in and day out and say, he repeats it. He does the same motions ever. It's the way he takes his presences in the field, the way he carries himself, the way he approaches it. It's not egregious. It wasn't egregious.
I don't think so either. I'm telling you right now, Alec Boehm is going to be a 30 home run, 100 RBI guy. Once he grows into that frame, he's 6'5". He's still a young guy. He doesn't even know how strong he can be yet. And you see some of the swings he puts on this baseball. He does not change his swing. First pitch to last pitch at bat. He and Bryson Stott have had the most competitive at-bats all year long in this lineup, without question. They don't go up there and just flail at stuff. They go up there with a plan, and they execute the plan.
Yeah, and I do think, to your point last week, Mitch, obviously he's got a ways to go in terms of the bat and hitting the Chase Utley level, but I think this kid's the kid who has the work ethic that can do it. I look at Philly sports, right? And I look at guys in the organizations, right? And when I look at young players who, in my opinion, are on the rise in this city, and you're looking at leadership and just by the way they carry themselves, there's Jalen Hurts, obviously, and I might even put Bryson Stott, honestly, at number 2 because he's been that much of a professional, the way he handles himself at the plate, in the field, seemingly in the locker room, after games when he talks to the media, I mean, he's a kid that you just can't help but get behind because he seems to do everything the right way, like a veteran.
And there's going to be I've made the comparison between him and Chase. Chase Utley with the bat in his hand was the best second baseman, one of the best second base, right there with Ryan Sandberg. He couldn't carry Ryan's glove, and that's the difference between Bryson Stott and Chase Utley. Chase was not a great second baseman. Didn't have a strong arm, but he played the position hard. Bryson plays the position smart, smoothly, and he's always seemingly in the right position. That's what I love about this kid. And he makes plays out there that even if Chase would have got to with his glove, I don't know that he had the arm strength to make the throw back across the diamond. And Stott's a shortstop. That's all there is to it. He's got the arm to throw from anywhere on that field. That's why I think he's overall, I think he's going to mature into a hitter that could be a 25 home run a year guy. But that defense in the field, trust me, pitchers are looking at him going, I don't care what he's hitting. I want him playing behind me. Yeah. That's the kind of defense he plays.
Let me ask you guys, we got about 10 minutes left.
Real quick, Boomer's the same way. Boomer's the same way. He's in that same conversation of being a professional, being accountable, playing with a spark to him, a ton of energy to him. They both do. They bring a ton of energy to this ball club. And yesterday's an example of the emotion, right? I mean, the guy's that good of a hitter, and you don't need to be that good of a hitter, but he's that good of a hitter to know that ball's a foot inside, right? And the emotion, like we relate to that, right? We relate to throwing your bat, being pissed off because we're all yelling at the TV. I know me and my dad were yesterday. Yeah. Come on, man! Like you can't be 88% behind the plate as a whole. Major league umpires are 88% behind the plate. That's atrocious. Okay, and that's not the reason you lost. The reason you lost is because Schwarber came up twice with the bases loaded. All right, and couldn't get the job done. That's why you lost. All right, now I'll give him the 2-out one. But the next time with 1 out, he pops up to second base and breaks his back on a 1-1 count. Right, where I'm still hunting. Come on. So they're the reasons you have 15 runners on base. So I mean, there's more reasons than just the umpire, but. You know, that was egregious. So,
yep. And you have to show yourself every now and then. If you want that umpire's respect, he can't know that he just rung you up on a ball 5 inches inside and you didn't say anything about it. Because that tells him you don't know the strike zone. It's like hitters that always will take a strike, turn around and go, was that ball up? You don't ask the umpire anything. As soon as you do, it tells him you don't know what the strike zone is anyway.
Bro, it's so true. It's so true. Was it up? Well, now you don't know. Right? Yeah. If I'm up and I'm like, well, you don't know. So essentially keep your mouth shut.
The thing you can't do is turn around and look at him and say it. You want to put your head down and say, that ball's up. As long as you don't look at him, they're not going to do a thing. It's when you look at him and direct the comment directly at the umpire that they get pissed. You can look down and say whatever you want. But it shows him up if you look at him and question what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, completely spot on with both of your guys' points. Listen, coming up this week, it's a short week in terms of only 5 games this week. They're off tonight. They're off on Thursday. But they have a 2-gamer against Toronto, and then they get a chance to come back and I think a very, very winnable series, very sweepable series coming up with Washington. So let me ask you guys, coming up this week, you obviously touched on a split in Toronto as a success. What's a success for the week? Are we talking 3 out of 2? Do you think you got to go out and sweep?
I don't think you can win 3 out of 2. Winning 3 out of 2 would be really good.
2 out of 3.
They go to Toronto and they win 3 games out of 2 played. That'd be a hell of a trip.
Yeah. Give me more of that. No, give me more of that.
Get the split 1-1. I meant in Washington. 2 out of 3. Is it 2 out of 3 acceptable, or do we need a sweep here?
You know what you should accept as a player at this time of year? You should accept that every time you walk on the field, that should be a win. That's what this team needs to expect of themselves. So I look at this next week. Why split in Toronto? Go up there and take 2 games. This team's been playing great on the road. So go up, take 2 games in Toronto, then take care of Washington.
That would be an amazing week if they could do that. Tom?
Yeah, I'm on the 4-1 trip here. I'm going 4-1 in these 5. And any way you want to go about it, go about it. But I'm good with the split in Toronto, and then I come and I wipe the floor with the Washington Nationals, right? And I just keep playing this high level baseball. And if you go into this postseason the same way you did last year, playing this style and winning this type of games, man, you are a problem come the postseason. It's not the way you start. I'd rather start off slow and get hot in June and play my best baseball from June on. I'm always an advocate of that. Always, because I want to be, I want to get out the glitches per se in April and May, right? I want to fix the problems. So now I'm cruising, and that's what they're doing. So let's keep it up. Now 3-2. Again, I'm not gonna go flipping out. You know what I mean? 2 and 3. Whoa, whoa, what happened? So I need a minimum 3-2, right? Minimum.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I think if they could go 4-1 here, that's a huge success. They're playing really well. There's no reason to believe that they can't do that. I think the extra rest for the pitching staff is going to help out as well. So yeah, I mean, I think this could be a big week for them that they can really solidify that number 1 wild card spot. We're coming down towards the end of the show. There was Mitch 30-year celebration this week for the Philadelphia Phillies and their 93 World Series team. Crazy to think that it's 30 years ago, honestly, in hindsight. But obviously the Phillies celebrated the team. Milt Thompson was on Good Morning America, kind of helping to promote the celebration of the team. What are your thoughts reflecting back 30 years ago for the 93 Phillies team?
Well, it's hard to believe it was 30 years ago until you look at my picture on the screen here. I dyed all my hair white, and that was hands down the best baseball team I was ever a part of. And it was the only time in my career that I was on a team that all 25 guys were on the same end of the rope heading in the same direction. We had really unselfish guys on that team. I ended up having the best year of my career with 43 saves that year. And I've said and will say that David West and Larry Anderson got all the hard outs that year and made my job simple. So those guys, I can't tell you the 25 guys on that team how much I care for them. There are a lot of guys on that team that I care a whole lot about, and it's because of the things we went through.
Yeah, it was a special team, and it was one of those teams. We go back as fans, and it really was it was a hardworking, grinding, dive after the baseball, team. Get your jersey dirty. Every player on the team had dirty jerseys, and it was one. I mean, I'm as a non-Phillies fan, that team was fun to watch as a kid. It almost converted me to a Phillies fan watching you guys that year.
Chrome, I can tell you this, and it'll never happen in the game of baseball today because of all the selfishness that goes on in the game today. We had 3 platoons on that team and went to a World Series. You show me any team today that could have 3 platoons and make it to a World Series, and never happened. Players are too selfish. We had Milt and Enke in left field, Izzy and Wes Chamberlain in right field, and we had Mickey and Mariano Duncan at second base. Every one of them accepted their role and excelled at it. Enke had 22 home runs and 88 RBIs, and only played against left-handed pitching.
That's crazy. That's big numbers.
Yeah.
135 RBIs came out of left field that year.
And that's in amazing. Some of those cookie cutter stadiums too, where it was a long way to hit some of those balls out of the ballpark.
Yep. I mean,
yeah, it's amazing. You couldn't pay for that, right? Like you couldn't go out and spend top dollar on a free agent and get that production that you guys got from that position specifically.
All 3 of them. I mean, Izzy and West, they put up great numbers in right field. Mariano and Mickey put up great numbers at second base, but you would never get that to work today because everybody's looking to make $25 million a year. They're not looking to win a championship. They want to be on the field. they want to be on the field if their load management isn't too much. So the mindset's a little different today than it was back then. It was about winning.
Yeah, and that team.
Yeah, Tom.
No, I'm saying that team, like, I feel like that team won it, right? Like, I felt like that was a win. So, I mean, listen, I was 12 or 13 or 11, whatever the heck I was. I don't even remember, but in that range, right? And I told Mitch, it's like, I remember having everybody's card, right? Everybody's card. And I put the lineup together, and then whoever was pitching was on the side. Like, it was something that grew me into a baseball player, right? It shaped, like, it's bigger than just what happened. Like, I'm talking about a fan and a young kid that, like, bought into that style of play. Like, I only knew one way to play. And then the way it projects down the line is like, now I am in a role of teaching youth that same style of play, that hard nose, that get dirty, that want to, right? The emotion that comes with playing sports. Like, so it wasn't just as simple as like, hey, they went to a World Series. It was an awesome run. It's what it did, not only for those guys and the relationships they have forever, right? And the bonds they have, but the bonds us as young kids got from that group of men, and how they shaped us as baseball players and just as adults. Like, it fit the personality of my dad, right? Of a hard worker, a grinder. Like, you know, it just, you couldn't get a better.
There's never been a team that fit a city
better
than the 93 team fit Philly. Because
never.
we were all just cast-offs. There was very few guys on that team that were drafted by the Phillies. We were all cast off from other organizations. And the difference was we were too stupid to know when we were beat. I mean, we were down one time. What started it all, we were down, I think, 9-0 to the Giants. And Wes Chamberlain hit a line drive.
I was at this game, by the way. I was at that game.
Hit a line drive back to the pitcher who it went in his glove, and he caught it to end the inning, and then he spiked the ball on the mound. And all that did was piss everybody in our lineup and clubhouse off, and we beat them. Came back and beat them. I think we beat them 10-9 or 11-10, one of the two. But that's just how that team was. We were not smart enough to know when we were beat, and if we couldn't beat you on the field, we would be happy to fight you. That's the whole way that team felt.
I think just to kind of put a pin on it here, when I look at that team, and you go through all the teams that have played in for every organization over time, particularly in our lifetime, Tom, that's one of those teams that, despite whatever the outcome was, it has aged like wine. It has gotten better when you look at the style of play, like you said, bringing all these different players and personalities together. And there was a hell of a lot of personality on that team to manage. And that's one thing I would love next time I'm on, when you mentioned, maybe when we do this, have a catch segment. I'd love to talk about just Jim Fergosi managing all those personalities at a time. But I'll tell you, that team, in my opinion, when you look at all these other teams, has aged better to look and say, man, that's the way baseball should have always been played. And that team played it that way. And even now you say, I feel like guys don't play like that. Go back and watch a tape of the 93 Phillies and like get yourself revved up and back into it. It reminds you of what the passion of baseball is.
Yep.
And I'm not even a Phillies fan saying that. As a Cardinals fan saying that, I loved watching that 93 team. I had a Darren Daulton thing on my wall. Everything was Cardinals, and then I had a big Darren Daulton poster on my wall. I mean, that's how much I love that 93.
You were like the ladies in the city.
Yeah. And ladies out of the city, and ladies on planet Earth. God bless him and may he rest in peace. But Dutch, he lived a tough life being a beautiful guy like that.
Oh, man. Well, listen, this was a fun show. And congratulations to you guys, Mitch, on 30 years of the 93 team. And again, what an iconic team to be a part of.
Yeah, what a city to put a team like that in. Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
That team would have never had success in any other city.
Oh, no.
We needed a bunch of low-down, dirty fans backing us, and that's what we got every night.
This is the last thing I'm going to say about this. That 93 team, and to what you talk about cast-offs and fitting a city, I look at the Philadelphia Eagles team that finally got over the hump in 2017. And it was a lot of similar where there were guys who were cast-offs like Chris Long, and you look at Torrey Smith and these guys who people thought were either didn't have anything left or weren't good enough to start in different places, who came to this organization and played in this city and embodied the city. That's the two teams I look at in that I can think of in any era that fit a city so perfectly as the 93 Phillies and the 17th Philadelphia Eagles. But again, congratulations, brother, on 30 years of that. And it's going to continue to get celebrated for another 30 years. So
I hope I'm here for the second 30-year one.
Hey, you will be, brother.
The 60-year reunion.
Well, we'll get you to 50.
Best of luck.
Thank you to our sponsors over here. Obviously, RTC. Any of those needs you guys have, make sure you hit up Mitch. And obviously our Philly Sports Trips, phillysportstrips.com, any of that stuff. Make sure you check out the trips they have upcoming. Philadelphia Eagles season kicking off. So, guys,
I got to jump in here, Chrome, because someone asked a question if the 93 team was better than the 08 team.
Oh,
and I'll answer it the same way I've always answered it. They were way more talented than us, but they didn't play harder than us. That was the difference.
That would make for a very interesting. That would make for a very interesting matchup there too, Mitch.
Oh, it would.
I'd love to see you guys in a 7-game series.
Yeah, I don't know if they're hitting Shill. I don't know if they're hitting Shill game 1. So, I don't know.
Prime Shill, Prime Hamels. That would be something to see.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Shill on that team, the way we traded it, every 5th day he was a horse. The other 4 days he was a horse's ass.
I'll say this: I think that with Kurt Schilling, as I know his playoff success was what it was later on, but in terms of when you saw him like season wise at peak, I thought his run with the Phillies was the best run of his career.
Well, I can tell you this: if Schill would have been a likable guy, the guys behind him during the regular season would have cared more. He won 216 games in 22 years. That adds up to 12 a year. He should have won average 18 wins a year. The reason he won in the playoffs is because everyone wants to win playoff games. Mm-hmm. In the regular season, they didn't care if Schill won because he was so hard to tolerate. But come the postseason, if I had a big game to win, that fat bastard would be pitching it for me.
Well, I think to your point, Mitch, I think if he was a more likable guy, even with only a 12 win per season average, there'd be a lot more people coming to back him up for a push for the Hall of Fame. Yeah, and there's nobody out there pushing for him.
No, and the reason is because people think I say this about Schilling because I don't like him. No, I look at it objectively. The Hall of Fame is recognition for a body of work. And I'm sorry, 22 years, 12 of which were pitched in the National League. And then you look at Jack Morris's numbers, who every inning of his career was pitched against a 9-man lineup, not 8 men and a pitcher. He faced 9 guys, and they wanted to get on Jack Morris's career ERA. Well, Jack was the guy that pitched the scoreboard. If he was up 7-1 in the 7th inning, he's throwing nothing but fastballs down the middle and saying, hit it as far as you can. I don't care. I've got a 6-run lead. That's where things have changed. And you compare Jack Morris's career numbers during the regular season and the postseason. I'm sorry, Schill doesn't measure up.
That's a fair point. I mean, a lot of people try to make the argument for him saying, based on playoffs alone. And I don't think you can just do that.
No, if you do it on playoffs alone, as soon as they build a postseason wing for Hall of Famers on the Hall of Fame, Schill is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
That's right. We'll put his bloody sock right there.
No, there's a lot of guys who had great postseasons, but over 162 they aren't good enough for it. Right. So right. He's not the only guy.
No. It's just the numbers are what the numbers are, and the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. Well, great conversation today, guys. Mitch, thanks for all that insight too with the 93 Phillies. I was happy to be on with both of you gentlemen for the first time. So for Mitch, for Tom Arnone, for Here's the Thing with Mitch and Tom Arnone, A2D Radio, myself, Chrome. Thank you guys. Have a great week. Give somebody a hug out there. Go Phils. Have a big week this week and take care.
Yes.